All right, 2 nights in a row. I went live at the same time on TikTok and Facebook. Okay, good evening, y'all. Hello, fam. So tonight, our topic, if you read it, is fear. So, I'm not gonna do a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Today, I had to get my youngest daughter ready for her first prom, and I had to give her a hair mask and deep conditioning and a shampoo and a blow dry, a blowout, and a cut and a press and a curl. And I've been like beat ever since. Like, I'm wiped out, totally wiped out. Oh my gosh. And you know what? I just remembered she may be coming home during this live and I would have to answer the door. But anyway, so hopefully not. But if I suddenly like stop the live mid live, that's why. Anyway, we're going to talk about fears, and I want to talk about fears because fear is a major factor in why we don't accomplish our goals, right? Fear is a major factor in why we don't accomplish our goals. We are afraid on a subconscious level of something. Believe it or not, there are a lot of people who are afraid of being successful. People want to be successful. They think about it, they talk about it, but deep down inside, they're afraid of being successful. And they could be afraid of the process. They could be afraid of what it's going to take, the commitment that it's going to take. In order to be successful, you have to be consistent. And in order to be consistent, that means, like, for example, tonight, I didn't feel like coming on live. I had a really long day. I'm really tired. I'm slightly irritable, and I didn't feel like doing a live. But it's important for me to be consistent, right? That's part of being successful. You have to be consistent. You have to show up for yourself and for those who are looking for you to show up and for those who are looking to criticize you because you didn't show up. So you have to show up. So it could be that you're afraid of consistency, the consistency that success is going to take. It could be that you're afraid of something, that someone that you're going to have to cut out of your circle, right? Somebody that deep down in your heart, when I'm ready to go hard, I'm going to have to cut this person out of my circle because this person is consistently negative, or because this person is talking about things that I don't have an interest in anymore and that are not going to compliment me as I go this way. They're going to pull me down. So it could be somebody you know that you're going to have to cut out of your circle. It could be a new trait that you're going to have to incorporate. I was in a class the other day, and I think I brought this up last night, and a lady had, said that she, kind of like a shield, she's very negative, and can be very nasty. And it's kind of like a defense mechanism, a defense shield, and it's keeping her from getting a partner or keeping a partner long term. And so she was saying, I'm going to have to give this up. Like, I do this so that I'm going to hurt them first before they hurt me, and she was like, I'm going to have to give that up if I want to have a successful long-term relationship. So fear can take on many components. I remember, after I got in a car accident, I was afraid to drive. After I got in a rather large car accident, I was afraid to drive again. Like, I've been driving for 30 plus years, and for the first time, I was afraid to get in the car and drive. And that was like a real fear because of that trauma. And so I remember having to force myself to get in the car. Like, I had to do some real self-talk for quite a while to get back in that car and drive. Here's another, I'll share one more story, story time with you about myself. So I've been flying since I was 3 months old, all over the world, been flying. And I was on a, plane with my mom, and this was before college. I was on a plane with my mom, Okay. Don't forget to lock the. No, not that. Not that. Okay. Anyway, a little communication with my husband there. I was on a plane with my mom, and up to this point, I had loved flying, would always hop on a plane. I was always on, like I said, I've been flying since I was 3 months, always on a plane, jet setting somewhere. And I was on a plane. I don't know if my dad was there or not. I'm assuming he was, but I remember I was looking at my mom. Anyway, I think we were coming back from Europe, and there was like a really bad storm at the whatever elevation we're flying at. And I could see the lightning. I remember thinking this was the first time I had ever seen lightning while flying, like that close on a plane where you look out the window. And I mean, I remember we had just finished a real nice dinner service. There was lobster and it was really good. And we were in first class. And I looked out the window and there was like lightning. And I think one of the stewardesses announced like there was a storm, but no worries or whatever. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, without any warning, the plane dropped. Like, bro, like 10,000 feet, like out of nowhere. Like we just dropped. And I remember I wasn't afraid. I did not know what to think of it. Like I didn't know what to think. And I looked over at my mom, and my mom loves flying. And for the first time in my life, my mother looked scared. And when she looked scared, I picked up on that fear and I adopted that fear, and I wouldn't get in a plane again. Now, this was a problem because we was some traveling people. So this was a problem, but I refused to get on a plane again. Refused. And so that meant I couldn't go out of the country. And for everywhere that we had to go, Tish was like, so I went to college in North Carolina. I am from California. I grew up back east, but I grew up back east and in California. And so anyway, in high school, we're living in California, and I went to school in North Carolina for college, and I would not fly. So they put me on the train. I took Greyhound. My parents thought I was crazy. They were like, we're offering you first class Greyhound ticket, not Greyhound, first class Amtrak ticket, and you want to take your butt on. Well, what happened was I got on the train. Here's another fear. I got on the train, right? Because I'm not flying anymore. Because I have that fear, new fear, right? Get on the train, and halfway to North Carolina, or no, this was coming home to California. So I was in North Carolina, coming home to California, halfway on the train. I get off because we had some kind of incident on the train, and it felt like the train was going to derail. Something happened. I can't remember what it was, but it scared me half to death. So I got off the train halfway home. And this was like for, a holiday. And my parents are like, what are you going to do? How are you going to get home? I'm not 25. I can't rent a car. They're like, how are you going to get home? So I had to call my boyfriend in North Carolina, and he had to come drive and get me. And I don't remember what happened after that. I don't remember the rest of the story, what happened that holiday. But point is, then it became, I don't want to travel on trains. Right? Another fear pops up, right? So anyway, and then, fast forward, I have my kids or whatever. And my mom's like, let's all go to Europe, for the summer. And I was like, no, we can't go to Europe, because my fear held me back and kept my husband and my kids from going. Because I was like, you are not taking my children on a plane, because this fear extended not only from me, but it extended and, pushed itself onto my kids. I don't want my kids on a plane either. So we couldn't go to Europe. And then, you know what? One day the Lord asked me, do you have faith? And I was like, of course I have faith. And he was just like, you won't get on a plane. How do you have faith? I control the air. So I was like, facts. right? I can't really profess Christianity, profess faith, and all of that, and say that there are things that I can't do, things that I'm too afraid of to do. God is not a God of fear, okay? So I decided I was going to get on a plane. Let me tell you something. I now fly again. I hate flying. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it, but I do it. Okay, because it is important for us to conquer our fears. One of, I don't get on roller coasters. I don't get on roller coasters. And I was going to start getting on roller coasters. Quick story with what happened with roller coasters is there was a park called, I think it was called Kennywood in Pennsylvania. And anyway, they had this huge roller coaster and they had two of them next to each other. This is way back in the day. I'm sure this place doesn't even exist anymore, but they had these two roller coasters right next to each other. One faced this way, one faced this way. And the line was right there. Like the entrance to the line was like, here, you wanted this roller coaster, you went this way, you want that roller coaster, you went that way. My dad, I'm an only child. My dad put me in the wrong line. So like one was for like kids, and then one was for like teenagers, adults, right? He put me in the wrong line when I was like, I don't know, really young, and we were on vacation because my grandparents lived in Pennsylvania, and so he put me on the wrong roller coaster. And all I remember is I was terrified. He's terrified down there looking up at me. I'm terrified on the roller coaster, screaming my lungs out. And of course, they won't stop it. I can't get off. And I'm trapped on this roller coaster, and that developed a fear of roller coasters. And I decided finally I was going to get back on roller coasters, right? Finally, I'm going to get back on roller coasters. But then people started falling off, like here in Texas. And then I was like, maybe we'll just put it under a safety issue. But I was going to do it. Here's the thing. When you allow yourself to have one fear, let me tell you something. Several others crop up, and then you start becoming a fearful person and you start living in fear. One of the things that as an adult going to New York City, so I love New York City and my family we love New York City. And, I took a trip there, and I'm sure y'all saw it on Facebook. And, my most recent trip, and people were like, aren't you afraid to be in New York City by yourself? No. There were some things. Now, mind you, growing up, I was in New York City all the time. And then as an adult, I've been there several times. And my last trip was solo. And I was like, no, you know what? I'm not going to live in fear. Yeah, a lot of things. Of course, I'm not telling y'all to be reckless with your lives. Okay. I'm not saying be reckless with your lives now, but here's the deal. A lot of bad things can happen in life. And if you live your whole life afraid or worried about what bad things can happen, then you're not going to have the best quality life that you could have. I feel that in general, as a rule, it's better to do something than to look back and regret having not done that thing. Does that make sense? Better to do something than to look back and regret not having done that thing when you get older. Man, I really wish that I had done such and such or gone on that cruise or whatever it might be. And so, like in New York City at night, I'm walking around by myself, honey. I am at the water walking around by myself. I'm going out. I'm on the subway. I'm on the bus. I am everywhere. Like, oddly enough, that is like the one place I feel most at home and most comfortable in is New York City, and walking around New York City and doing everything. Cause I'm like, baby, why'd you come to New York City if you're not going to do it all? Like anywhere, everywhere, everything. I say a prayer and I just go and do it. But that's how we have to confront our fears of things where a lot of people may put fear on you, right? Now I wouldn't recommend doing all that in New York City if you're not familiar with it, by the way. Would not. If you don't know how to dress right, act right, if you're going to give off tourist vibes, I'm not going to recommend you going around New York City. Okay? I'll just put that out there because yes, it can be a very unsafe place. But, you have to get out there and you have to taste life. I like to say taste it, touch it, live it, experience it. Obviously within reason and being safe. But I find that a lot of people don't, people have bucket lists, right? I am not a proponent of the bucket list. I'm like, just do it. Just go do it. Why is it on this list? Like, how many people die? I remember somebody said there are so many people in the graveyard that were musicians, artists, mathematicians, engineers, all these things, but they never found out that's what they were meant to be because some sort of fear kept them from doing it. People, I notice, like, I don't have those inhibitions, but I notice that people have so many, and I would call it excuses, but I think it's really a lot of times just fears of just like, well, why can't you, I like to ask people when I'm talking to people and they're like, yeah, I want to do this, or, I plan on well, but this is stopping me or that, well, why haven't you done it? Why haven't you figured out a way to do it? Well, because this and that. And I find so many people, their dreams, they have a dream deferred, a deferred dream. I have to look up that poem. I'll read it to y'all maybe tomorrow. Fear will kill your dreams. Fear is a dream killer. It's a thief. It's a robber. It will keep you from experiencing what is best in life. And so you have to figure out a way to confront your fears. Maybe you want to go back to school, right? But you're afraid of student debt. You're afraid that you're going to be the oldest person in the class. You're afraid that you aren't going to have enough time to study. You're afraid. I mean, you've got all these excuses and fears built up, and it keeps you from living. So, all right, let me tell you about this book. This is a book that I've talked about. If you follow me on Facebook, I posted this. This is the workbook. Okay. The book is Hello Fears. Okay. Fabulous book. Please get the book. But then also make sure you get the accompanying workbook, this is the accompanying workbook. And I love it because it's the action. So the book is kind of like walking you through fear and different situations. And I love the author. She's fabulous. Check out her YouTube page. Her name is Michelle Poler. And she's got this great YouTube page of all these things, fears that she has conquered. And she's conquered them on film, and then she posts them, and she's inspired millions of people to conquer their fears as well. But, so there's the book, Hello Fears. And then there's also the workbook. And I love the workbook because it's action related, right? And you can write in it. And like I said, I posted this and talked about this kind of extensively on Facebook about a year and a half ago, because I just love it. But I'm going to read you, an excerpt from, day 65 really quickly, just to show you, give you an idea of what the workbook is like, because I think the workbook is great and I love this book. Day 65, afraid to fail, we all are. Things can go south from time to time, and the best that can happen may not always be what actually happens. But what if the universe is rooting for us? And even when things don't go according to plan, other wonderful things arise. Your challenge today is to imagine things don't go as you visualized them yesterday. In fact, imagine you fail. Remember, I did a live on failure the other day. Failure is so important. Now, answer this question. What's the best that can happen if the worst happens? Okay, so that's just a little sample of one of the days in the workbook. So the book is Hello Fears, and this is the challenge 100-day journal that goes along with the book, and it's by Michelle Poler. Fabulous. Go out and get both. You can get them on Amazon or at your favorite book outlet. So sometimes fear can be a motivating factor for us to do something. We can be afraid, of, here's a common thing, right? Somebody is about to die. Somebody finds out they have a certain amount of time to live. And now the fear that, oh my gosh, I wasted all this time. I should have gone on. What's the first thing when you talk to somebody who finds out they have a certain amount of time to live? And if you talk to hospice workers, the first thing that they're going to tell you is the first thing people, and this is universal, the first thing people universally say is how upset or disappointed they are that they didn't watch their kids grow up, that they didn't spend more time with their kids, and now they're older, and because they didn't pour into their kids and make them a priority, their kids don't make them a priority, or that they didn't take that vacation, or they didn't tell that loved one how they truly felt, or they didn't this, or they didn't that. And a lot of things that they talk about, that you find when you read about what people say, is fear of missing work, fear of disappointing this one or that one, and instead they disappointed themselves. All these, a lot of fear-based things kept them from living their best life. Fear will keep you from living your best life. Let me tell you, it sure will. And so when we think about how we want to live our life, we don't want to live recklessly. I'm not saying go out there, be fearless and live recklessly. But what I am saying is if it's not going to destroy you, like obviously you wouldn't jump off a cliff, right, without a harness. That would be not only fearless, but it would also be reckless, right? So I'm not saying be reckless, but what I am saying is be fearless. Just do it. It doesn't matter. Like I have started in my older years here, now that I'm 51, I have started doing things that I would not do. Now when I was in, which is funny, okay? And this is, kind of how I'm going to wrap it up. When I've been, I had started to think about all the things I did as a teenager. When I was a teenager, there was nothing I wouldn't do. When I say there was nothing I wouldn't do, there is nothing I wouldn't do. When I was a child, there was nothing I wouldn't do. I didn't have fear. I remember when I learned how to ride a bike, and it was a big deal, and I lived in New York at this particular time. And where we lived, there was a huge hill, right? Huge driveway that went, there was driveway went up, hill and went down. Okay. And so, I learned how to ride a bike riding down that hill. And, I remember I loved my bike. I remember riding down the hill and I hit a rock or something and I went flying in the air like that. And, for like 50 feet, and I landed and just took off the whole bottom of my chin. And, guess what? I obviously had to go to the hospital. It was quite an event. Quite an event. But guess what? I was right back on that bike. I was not fearful to get back on that bike, even though I had a traumatic, it was delayed trauma. Cause I remember it now and I look back on it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was that was horrible. It was horrible. Got right back on the bike. Okay. No fear. Same thing with, ice skating. I live back east. Ice skating. I went out on ponds. I could have fallen through the ice and died. Do you think that was a worry? That was not a worry. I was out on ponds, ice skating all the time. And if you know anything, if you live back east, you know that you better be sure before you get on a pond or a lake, honey, that is frozen all the way through, because you can get out there toward the middle and that ice will break and you cannot get back to shore. But anyway, no fear with that. Sledding. I had several sledding accidents living back east growing up. I lived in upstate New York. Okay. So 16 feet of snow. This was back before climate change. 16 feet of snow. sledding accidents, no fear, went right back out on the sled. And then what happens is that's how you are as a child, right? And then what happens is you become an adult and all of a sudden, it's like layer by layer, fear starts to set in, right? And things that you would not have thought twice about doing when you were a child, now all of a sudden, there's fear inside. You're like, well, what if this goes wrong? Or what if that goes wrong? Or what if, it hurts? Or what if, I'm embarrassed and people see me and they laugh at me, right? Things that you did not think twice as a child about doing, you all of a sudden start to develop these fears and you don't want to be seen a certain way by people. And so, I talk to women all the time and, there are so many fears that the average woman has from, should I wear my hair this way? Like one of the most number one things people come up to me and say is, Tish, wow, the way you wear a different wig every day is, I love it. It's insane. And I could never do it. I love it for you, but I could never do it because I would be afraid. And then, and I'm like, afraid of what? Afraid of what? It's your head. It's your head. Wear a wig. Or I'm afraid people would know I'm wearing a wig. And I don't care if people, obviously I'm wearing a wig. Obviously my hair isn't 15 inches one day and 2 inches the next day. This is actually my hair. Okay. This is my hair. Which, is super thick and I just cut it. I trimmed it. I gave it an aggressive trim. I cut for the ends or whatever. I think total 6 inches, in the past two months. But anyway, so it's much shorter than it was. But anyway, my hair is super thick and it's too much to do. I don't have time to do my hair every day. It's too much. It's too much. So, I wear wigs because all I have to do is put the wig on. And I love wearing wigs because I have a wig for every personality, not personality. That's not what I meant to say. For every, mood that I have, I wake up and I'm feeling sassy. I have a sassy wig. I wake up and I'm feeling, old money. I have an old money wig. I wake up and I'm feeling funky and artsy. I have an artsy wig. I love wigs because they express my personality for the day. And I don't have to bother with my hair and my hair grows like crazy. I want you to know 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago, I was bald-headed, not a single hair on my head. So, my hair grows really well when it's put up. So I like having my hair put up. But point is, women come up to me all the time and they're like, I love that. I wish I could, why can't you? You're afraid. Why? You're afraid that people are going to talk about you. You're afraid that, I don't know. You're afraid that people are going to know that you're wearing a wig. Where is the fear? It's you. You're you. Do what makes you, I'm big on, if it's not hurting anybody, do what makes you happy. Don't be afraid. Or people will say, oh my gosh, Tish, you're always wearing such funky, fun clothes, and I wish I could. Why can't you? Why can't you? You have the ability to buy clothes just like I do. Why can't you wear whatever it is that you want to wear? Why? Because they're so worried about what other people think. And in closing, I just want to say, a lot of people are living life, based on what other people think. They're afraid to live their life the way that they want to live it because, oh, what will my mom think? What will my kids think? What will, my homeschool group mamas think? And, people live in such uniformity. Have you noticed that? People live in such uniformity. Everybody drives the same car. Everybody, here in Texas, I noticed it's really creepy. I'd say a ton of women dress the same way. Maybe not so much the women of color, but women not of color tend to all dress the same. Very similar, I noticed. There's like a look. It's almost like they all went to the same store and came up with the same look. And I'm like, where is, be your, I often feel like, you get judged very harshly in this state for being different. If the way you dress is like funky or the way you wear your hair or whatever, there's a lot of uniformity in this state. And I think it's starting to change maybe a little bit more with the influx of Californians, maybe. But I think Californians really moved to Texas and assimilate, which is kind of sad too. I mean, and I'm not trying to get political because I know y'all want to take this to a political area, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying, don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to live outside your comfort zone. Because your comfort zone, what? Has no growth. There's no growth in it. There's no growth in that comfort zone. So don't be afraid to figure out what it is that you want to do. Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? And be that person. Give yourself permission to be the person that you want to be, to have the job that you want to have. Don't be afraid to walk into your job and say, I quit. I quit. I don't want to live like this. You don't value me, and I'm out, and go do something else. Don't be afraid if you have to downsize your house in order to be more free, in order to travel more. Don't be afraid to pull your kids out of that bad public school you might be in the district of and homeschool them and have amazing experiences. Don't be afraid to create the lifestyle that you want to live for yourself, to sit down and have a deep and honest conversation with yourself, and if you're married, with your partner, and figure out what you really want your life to look like. We can get so easily into a place where we're living not for ourselves. We can so easily get into a place where we are complacent, where we look up and we're not who we want to be with our husband, where we look up and we're not a good mom, right? Because maybe you're working all day and you come home and you're just exhausted and you need some me time, and your kids need some time with you and you just don't have the energy for that. Don't be afraid to be who it is that you want to be. Last year, I decided that I wanted to prove to myself that I could go get a job of my choosing and step into that job without any background in that job area that required, some level of background, and that I could jump into the workplace after being out of it for 20 plus years, and I could figure out how to do all the things. Let me tell you, and I did. I got the job that I wanted. I got a corner office. It's just the favor of God, right? Like conquering my fear. I thought about it for so long. Like, I really want to pop into the workplace for 1 year, like walk in literally for 1 year and 1 year to the day after get out. But just to prove to myself that for 1 year, I can be in the workplace and I can be that girl. And I got the job. I had a corner office. I learned all the things that you need to know to work in, I worked for the state of Texas, and it was so challenging. It was probably one of the most challenging things that I've ever done. It was so challenging, people. It was so very, very challenging. But I was afraid, I was afraid to do it. And then I said, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to get over my fear, and I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And I did it. And I walked in on May 1st and I walked out May 1st, the next year for 1 year. I did it. But it was so enriching. Like, oh, I met the best people. I miss my people. And I had the best experiences, and I learned so much and I grew so much, and it was so rewarding and so enriching because I overcame that fear and I did it. So let me just tell you, you don't know what blessings are out there for you when you, and I'm going to go now because my oldest son is home and he's going to make a bunch of noise. But you don't know what blessings are out there waiting for you when you step out of your comfort zone and you conquer your fears, when you address your fears head on and you say, hey, you know what? You are not going to hold me hostage anymore. The fear of this or the fear of that. I'm so proud of all of you that are not swimmers. You don't know how to swim and you decided that you're going to take swim lessons and learn how to swim properly, right? So that if you're in a situation, you won't drown, right? And a lot of you are older adults that have decided to learn how to swim finally properly. Conquer that fear, whatever it is, conquer it head on. And you might find out that you are absolutely crazy about whatever it is that you were afraid to do. I love giving myself little challenges all the time of things that I'm afraid of. And I love doing them. And sometimes, you know what? They don't work out well. Some things do not work out well. Like I've injured myself getting over fear and doing something, before. And that's okay. Like it's okay because at least I can say, hey, I conquered it. I did it. Didn't work out well, but I did it, and maybe I'll try it again. Maybe I won't, but get out there and just live out loud. Live life out loud. Life is so short. And let me tell you something. Things are getting worse. Like things are about to get really bad all over the world. I'm just telling you, this is the way things are. Things are getting bad. And my attitude is get out there, conquer your fears, and do the things before we live in a world, before we're at war, before we're in famine, because all of these things are coming, before severe pestilence, which is disease, hits, because that's coming. Okay. I'm not going to get political, but it's coming. It is. These are facts. So you have a limited amount of time to do what it is that you want to do. Conquer your fear, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is secretly it's in your heart to do. You're not too old. You're not too ugly. You're not too fat. You're not too incompetent. Whatever it is, there's like, that better not be a mosquito. Whatever it is, get out there and do it. Just live. Just live. That's all I got for tonight. Love you. Bye.